The air was thick with the tang of molten steel and the relentless clang of hammers. In the submarine bay, a cavernous hall of iron and ambition that stretched 800 feet long and soared 100 feet high, welders crawled like ants over half-built hulls, their torches spitting sparks that danced in the dim light like fireflies in hell. The USS Sturgeon, a sleek predator of the deep destined to prowl Japanese shipping lanes, lay unfinished in Dry Dock 3, its skeleton of riveted steel plates gleaming under the harsh glare of arc lamps. War loomed in Europe and the Pacific, Hitler's panzers rolling across France, Mussolini's boasts echoing from Rome, and whispers of Japanese carriers massing in the fog-shrouded atolls. Every day spent bolting wooden decks or rigging scaffolding was a day the enemy gained ground, a day American sailors waited in vain for their iron steeds. The shipyard pulsed with urgency. Cranes groaned under the weight of 20-ton keel plates, their cables humming like taut bowstrings. Rivet guns chattered in staccato bursts, driving orange-hot slugs into hull seams with pneumatic fury. The floor vibrated from the thunder of drop hammers shaping propeller shafts, and the air hummed with the low growl of diesel generators feeding power to the welders' torches. Salt spray from San Francisco Bay misted everything, mixing with the acrid bite of ozone from electric arcs and the oily sweat of 5,000 men working 3 shifts around the clock. Mare Island wasn't just a shipyard, it was the beating heart of America's nascent war machine, birthplace of 92 submarines that would sink a third of Japan's merchant fleet. But beneath the roar, inefficiency festered like rust in the seams. Among the chaos stood Ted Nelson, a 36-year-old welder with calloused hands the size of bear paws and a mind that never stopped turning like a well-oiled lathe. His overalls were stained with grease from a dozen leaks, his face smudged with soot from a morning spent fusing hull plates, but his eyes burned with something fiercer than the arcs around him: quiet, unyielding frustration. Ted wasn't like the others, the journeymen who clocked in at 7 a.m. and out at 4 p.m., content with their $11 daily wage and a cold beer at Quigley's Tavern. Where they saw a job, he saw madness. Where they saw routine, he saw waste. And on this muggy March morning in 1941, as the foghorn wailed across the bay like a dirge, Ted Nelson saw the future unraveling before his eyes. "This is insanity," he muttered under his breath, wiping sweat from his brow with a forearm that left a black streak. He stood on a rickety scaffold 20 feet above the Sturgeon's deck, watching 2 men, Big Mike Kowalski and Skinny Pete Ramirez, wrestle a 12-foot-wide panel of oaken planking into place. The wood, treated with creosote that reeked like tar pits, was meant to provide non-slip footing for submariners dodging torpedo tubes in the pitch black of combat dives. But securing it? Agonizing slowness. Drill the hole. 5 minutes of whirring steel biting oak. Thread the 1-inch iron bolt. Another 3. Cursing as the tap jammed. Hoist the massive washer and nut. 2 men grunting, veins bulging. Wrench it tight. 10 minutes of torque, sweat flying. 3 hours to secure 1 panel. 3 hours. The math gnawed at Ted like a dull file on soft steel. A single submarine's deck required 150 such panels. That's 450 hours per sub, nearly 3 full weeks for 1 crew, while scaffold erectors dismantled and rebuilt their death trap towers for each section. Multiply by 20 subs in production. 9,000 man-hours wasted per month. The Navy needed hundreds yesterday, and they were losing the race before the starting gun fired. Across the yard, the waste compounded. Workers hauled 500-pound scaffolding towers on dollies that squeaked like tortured mice, erecting them plank by plank, hours per setup, hours to tear down. Riveters balanced on beams narrower than a man's boot, hammers swinging in perilous arcs, one slip away from a 40-foot fall onto concrete. Ted had seen it happen twice that year. Jimmy Ruiz crushed under a fallen beam. Eddie Hale, spine snapped on the dock. Every minute was a battle, and they were losing, to their own archaic methods. Ted's torch hung idle in his harness as he watched, the weight of it a reminder of his own futile role in the madness. He spat tobacco juice over the rail, tasting the metallic grit of flux on his tongue. Bolts and rivets? Scaffolding that takes longer to build than the damn ship? This isn't shipbuilding. It's medieval torture. Ted's mind churned, gears meshing in the silence between hammer strikes. He'd spent his life in machine shops, tinkering with gears and wires since he was a boy in Fresno, where the summer heat baked the San Joaquin Valley into a furnace of opportunity. At age 10, he'd fixed his father's John Deere tractor with a bent axle and a prayer, earning a nickel and a pat on the back. By 15, he apprenticed under Old Man Hargrove, learning to coax life from scrap, rewiring Model T ignitions, forging plow blades from railroad ties, balancing flywheels by ear. No college degree from Caltech or Stanford, no corner office in Washington. He was a craftsman, earning $11 a day, enough for beans, bread, and a mortgaged bungalow in Vallejo. But he saw what the supervisors didn't. The Navy's methods were relics from the Spanish-American War, chaining progress to the past like ball and chain on a convict. Bolts and rivets? Primitive. Scaffolding that took hours to erect and dismantle? Suicidal. There had to be a better way, a welding way. Not the slow, flaming torches they used for hull seams, too hot for wood, too cumbersome for decks. No, something portable, something that fused a steel stud, a threaded pin directly to the deck plate in a single electric pulse. Press, trigger, zap, stud in place, plank bolted to it. Done. 1 second per stud, no scaffold, no bolts. Days shaved off every hull. Ted's pulse quickened. This could double production, triple it. Turn Mare Island into a submarine factory, not a museum. The lunch whistle blew at noon, a shrill piercing the din like a bosun's pipe. Ted descended the scaffold, boots clanging on rungs slick with oil, and joined the throng shuffling to the canteen, a Quonset hut reeking of boiled cabbage and stale coffee. Fellow welders slapped his back. "Hey, Teddy, saw you daydreaming up there, plotting mutiny?" He forced a grin, but his mind was elsewhere, sketching invisible lines on his napkin. Handle like a pistol, electrode tip, capacitor for the arc. Simple. Crude. Genius. Emma's face flashed, his wife of 12 years, school teacher with laugh lines and unyielding faith. She'll believe. But the bosses? They'll laugh. That night, in the quiet of his small Vallejo home, a 2-bedroom bungalow on Elm Street with peeling white paint and a yard of crabgrass, Ted sat at the kitchen table, a single 40-watt bulb casting long shadows over his makeshift workbench of oilcloth and cigar boxes. The clock ticked 9:17 p.m., children asleep upstairs, the distant hoot of a bay owl, the only sound beyond the scratch of his pencil. His wife, Emma, 34, and pretty in a faded apron, watched from the doorway, her arms crossed, worry etched into the fine lines around her hazel eyes. She'd seen this fire before. The late nights rebuilding the family Ford after the '29 crash, the weekends inventing a Cornhusker that never sold. "You're up late again, Ted," she said softly, her voice carrying the lilt of her Iowa roots. "You need rest. The yard's hard enough without you burning yourself out. Those scaffolds, they're killing men, not just tiring them." He didn't look up, his pencil scratching across a scrap of paper from the kid's school tablet, lines blooming into a device that had haunted his thoughts all day. A welding gun, not the heavy, clumsy oxyacetylene torches weighing 30 pounds that scorched wood to char, but something new. Something handheld, powered by a jury-rigged transformer drawing from the yard's 440-volt lines. Trigger pull. Capacitor discharges 600 amps in a microsecond, melting the stud's base to the steel plate in a plasma arc hotter than the sun's surface. Flux powder explodes, shielding the weld from oxygen. Stud cools, fuses perfectly. 1 blazing second. A tool to replace 1-inch bolts with an 1/2-inch studs, to weld through chaos and cut construction time to the bone, from 450 hours to 50 per deck. Ted's hand trembled slightly as he detailed the ceramic insulator, the spring-loaded collet. "This isn't invention. It's salvation." "Emma," he said, his voice low but steady as forged steel, "if I can make this work, it'll change everything. No more scaffolding swaying in the wind, no more Big Mike nearly falling to his death. No more wasted hours while Hitler laughs and Tojo builds his fleet. We could build ships faster than anyone thought possible. Subs rolling out in weeks, not months. The Navy could choke Japan's oil before Pearl Harbor even whispers." She sighed, stepping closer, her eyes tracing the lines of his sketch, the pistol grip, the coiled cable snaking to a power pack. "He's dreaming again," she thought, heart twisting. Dreams don't pay the mortgage, don't put food on the table for Tommy and little Sarah. But she knew better than to stop him. Ted Nelson wasn't a man who quit. He was the boy who'd walked 12 miles to fix Hargrove's thresher in a dust storm, the husband who'd rebuilt their life after the bank foreclosed in '32. She laid a hand on his shoulder, feeling the knots of tension beneath his shirt. "It's brilliant, Ted. Lord knows the yard's a slaughterhouse, but the bosses, they're Navy men. Suits and specs, they'll chew you up." "Let 'em try," he replied, folding the sketch like a battle map. "Suits don't build ships. Welders do." The next morning, March 18, 1941, dawned gray and damp, fog blanketing the bay like a wool blanket. Ted carried his sketch to the shipyard in a tin lunchbox, his heart pounding with purpose sharper than a center punch. He clocked in at 6:55 a.m., the time card thunk echoing his resolve, and marched straight to the foreman's office. A cramped 8x10 box of cigarette smoke, yellowed blueprints pinned to walls like wanted posters, and the perpetual plink of a leaky faucet. Foreman Jenkins, 50s, paunchy with a perpetual stogie, held court behind a desk, buried in requisition forms. Flanking him, Later Harlan Morrison, a barrel-chested officer fresh from Annapolis, 32 years old, with a clipboard etched in gold Navy insignia and a scowl that could curdle milk. Morrison was the embodiment of bureaucracy, rigid as a yardarm, blind to anything unstamped, Bureau of Ships approved. Ted knocked once, entered, and laid the paper on the desk, his hand steady despite the weight of the moment, calluses rasping on the wood. The room smelled of stale coffee and Jenkins' Phillies blunt. "Lieutenant Foreman," Ted began, voice clear over the yard's distant roar. "I've got an idea. A welding gun, portable, 10 pounds max, plugs into the yard's grid. It welds studs to decks in 1 second flat. Press, trigger, done. No drilling, no threading, no wrenching. Replace those monster bolts with threaded pins. Plank screws right on, saves 400 man-hours per subdeck. No scaffold, safer, faster. We could finish the sturgeon a week early." Morrison barely glanced at the sketch, his eyes flicking over the lines like they were a child's doodle. He leaned back, chair creaking, and let out a laugh, sharp as a chisel strike, cutting through the hum of the yard filtering through the cracked window. "A welding gun? You, Nelson? $11 a day spark jockey?" His voice dripped Ivy League disdain. "Stick to welding, son. Leave the inventing to the engineers at the Bureau. This scribble? It's unsafe, non-standard, impractical. Specs call for bolted decks, period." Jenkins stubbed his cigar, chuckling deep in his belly, ash scattering like spent flux. "What's next, Ted? You gonna build us a battleship in your backyard, or fly it with propellers made from hubcaps?" The other supervisors, 2 draftsmen in the corner, joined in, their voices a chorus of condescension, laughter bouncing off the blueprint walls like ricocheting slugs. "Mad Nelson's at it again. Thinks he's Edison with a torch." Ted's jaw tightened, knuckles whitening on the desk edge. "They don't see it. Blind fools." The sketch wasn't just lines on paper, it was a spark, a rebellion against inefficiency, a weapon to arm America before the bombs fell. Heat rose in his chest, but he held it, eyes locked on Morrison. "Unsafe? I've welded hulls in typhoons. This is cleaner than your mama's china. Impractical? Run the numbers, Lieutenant. 450 hours to 50. That's 20 subs a month, not 5. While you fiddle with specs, Japan's building carriers." Morrison's laugh turned cold. "Out, Nelson. Back to your station, or I'll write you up for insubordination." Ted folded the paper with deliberate slowness, the creases sharp as knife edges, and walked out, the laughter trailing him like smoke from a bad weld. The door slammed behind him, muffling the jeers. But as he stepped back into the clangor of the yard, the bang-bang-bang of rivets, the hiss of steam from pressure tests, the shouts of crane operators, something hardened inside him, solid as quenched steel. They can laugh all they want, he thought, pocketing the sketch. "I'll build it anyway, in my garage, with my hands. And when the sturgeon launches early, they'll choke on that cigar." Word spread like flux fire. By afternoon break, welders clustered around the coffee urn. Heard Mad Nelson pitched a flying welder to Morrison. Got laughed out. Big Mike clapped Ted's back. "What it look like, Teddy? Magic wand?" Ted grinned through gritted teeth. "Something better, you'll see." But doubt flickered. Emma's warning echoed. "They'll chew you up." That evening, as the sun dipped into the Golden Gate, painting the bay in bloody hues, Ted cleared out his garage, a 10 by 12-foot sanctuary of tools and scrap metal squeezed between the bungalow and a sagging fence. The air smelled of oil and rust, decades of projects layered like sedimentary rock. The half-built corn husker, rusted bike frames, coils of baling wire. The single bulb overhead flickered as he flipped the switch, casting jagged shadows on walls papered in Sears catalogs. He scavenged parts with a scavenger's eye. Copper wire stripped from an old Atwater Kent radio in the attic, thick as his thumb. A 1-inch steel rod from a broken South Bend lathe borrowed from Hargrove's estate. A trigger mechanism pried from a discarded Black & Decker drill, its Bakelite handle cracked but serviceable. His hands moved with the precision of a man who'd spent 2 decades bending metal to his will, filing the barrel to 18 inches, threading the collet with a die set from the yard, smuggled in his lunchbox, winding 200 feet of wire into a capacitor bank that could store a lightning bolt. The first prototype took shape over 3 sweat-soaked hours. Ugly as sin, 15 pounds of tangled wires, bolts, and solder. The barrel was rough-hewn pipe, scarred from vice bites, the grip wrapped in friction tape that smelled of rubber and desperation. The power pack, a wooden crate housing a doorbell transformer scavenged from the neighbor's scrap heap. But it was his. Ted held it up, the weight grounding him like an anchor, and imagined the sound it would make, a crackle like thunder in a bottle, silencing the skeptics from Mare Island to Washington. He dry-fired the trigger. Click. Solid. It'll work. Emma stood in the doorway, arms full of laundry from the line, her voice soft but firm as she watched sparks from his grinder dance across the concrete floor. Ted, this could ruin us. If you quit the yard, if this doesn't work. The mortgage is $28 a month. Tommy needs shoes. Sarah's cough. Her eyes glistened in the bulb's glow, fear mingling with the pride she always hid. He set the gun down, crossed to her in 2 strides, and met her eyes, his own blazing with conviction forged in Fresno fires. It'll work, Emma. It has to. For the boys on those scaffolds, for the sailors diving into black water, for us, not starving on $11 a day while the world burns. He pulled her close, the gun's shadow falling over them like a promise. Trust me, 1 spark. That's all it takes. She nodded, burying her face in his chest, the scent of creosote and hope mingling. Weeks passed in a blur of sparks and sleepless nights, the calendar flipping from March to April under the relentless tick of Emma's mantle clock. Ted burned through $147 in savings, buying ceramic insulators from a San Francisco supply house, bus fare round trip, $1.20, flux powder in 5-pound tins, $2.50 each, and a voltmeter that cost a week's wages. He tested in the yard's shadow, sneaking plates after hours, the zap echoing like gunfire. Neighbors whispered about the mad welder, the man who thought he could outsmart the Navy brass. The glow from his garage, a beacon of folly. Even his fellow welders, men he'd shared beers with at Quigley's, shook their heads over greasy burgers. "You're chasing ghosts, Ted," Big Mike said one Friday, clapping sawdust from his hands. "The Navy's got 500 engineers in D.C. for this. What makes you think you're smarter than them? Morrison will bury you in paperwork." Pete Ramirez nodded, pint in hand. "Quit while you're ahead, buddy. Get back to $11 steady." But Ted didn't hear them. He heard the clatter of the shipyard at dawn, the ticking clock of war from radio broadcasts. Rommel advances in Libya, Japanese spies sighted in Hawaii. He saw ships unfinished in dry dock, sailors waiting in boot camp, an enemy growing bolder with every delayed keel. Every night, he refined the gun in the garage's orange glow, tweaking the trigger spring for smoother pull, filed 20 times till perfect, testing the arc on scrap plates, 50 failures, studs popped like corks, 51st, fusion, insulating wires with rubber tubing dipped in paraffin, burned fingers thrice. Failure after failure singed his hands, blisters popping like rivets, flux powder stinging eyes till tears ran black, but each one taught him something new. Shorten the electrode 1/8 inch for stability. Add a ceramic flux cap to contain the plasma burst. Closer. So close. Emma brought coffee at midnight, bandaged burns at 2 a.m., whispered prayers at 4. "You're my hero, Ted, but come back whole." Then, one humid night in April 1941, April 22nd to be precise, with thunder rumbling over the Sierras, it happened. The air in the garage hung heavy, 92 degrees from the day's heat trapped in the tin roof, sweat soaking Ted's undershirt to translucency. He'd pawned his pocket watch for the final ceramic cap, a porcelain thimble from a radio shop. He clamped a 1/4 inch steel plate to his workbench, salvaged from the Sturgeon's reject pile, marked the spot with chalk, loaded a half-inch stud coated in flux. Hands steady as a surgeon's, he aimed the prototype, barrel kissing metal, inhale, pull trigger. A flash of light blinded him, brighter than magnesium, blue-white plasma arc leaping 600 amps in a heartbeat. A sizzle like bacon in a cast-iron pan, sharp and primal. The flux cap popped, shielding the weld in a puff of smoke that smelled of ozone and victory. 1 second. 1 spark. The silence that followed was louder than any applause, broken only by the tick-tick of the cooling stud. Ted leaned in, torchlight revealing perfection. The pin fused seamless to the plate, threads gleaming, strong as the hull itself. He tugged, immovable. Hammered, unyielding. It works. Ted grinned through the smoke, teeth flashing white against soot-blackened face, a laugh bubbling up raw and triumphant. "Emma, get in here." She rushed from the house, nightgown fluttering, eyes wide. He thrust the plate at her. "Look, 1 second, solid as the Rock of Gibraltar, the Sturgeon's deck in hours, not weeks." She traced the weld, tears mixing with his sweat. "My God, Ted, you did it." He pulled her into a crushing hug, the gun between them like a newborn. "We did it." But the world wasn't ready to listen. Not yet. The Navy's laughter still echoed in his ears, Morrison's specs a wall of red tape. He needed a name, Nelson Stud Welder, a company, Nelson Specialty Welding Equipment Corp., registered on a $5 form from the county clerk, a patent to shield his spark from thieves. Proof that his crude contraption could outshine the Navy's sacred blueprints. He needed to turn his spark into a fire, to ship the first unit, to make the skeptics beg. As he sat in the glow of his garage at 3:17 a.m., the sketch now a reality in his hands. 15 pounds of defiance, humming faintly from residual charge. Ted Nelson knew one thing for certain. They could laugh all they wanted, but he had already seen the future. A future of faster ships, saved lives, and a welder's rebellion etched in steel. April 1941. Nelson Garage, Elm Street, Vallejo, California. The garage door hung open to the muggy night, a 10 by 12-foot forge of desperation, where the air hung heavy with the bite of solder and the faint, electric tang of ozone. A single 60-watt bulb swung from a rafter, casting jittery shadows across workbenches cluttered with flux tins, wire coils, and scorched steel plates. Battle scars from a war Ted Nelson fought alone. Outside, crickets chirped in the crabgrass yard, oblivious to the thunder building within. Inside, the workbench hummed with possibility. The prototype stud welder, its 15-pound frame still warm from that first triumphant zap, lay like a sleeping beast amid sketches pinned to the wall like wanted posters for inefficiency. Ted, shirtless and sweat-slicked, hunched over it at 4:15 a.m., his calloused fingers tracing the ceramic flux cap. The breakthrough thimble of porcelain that had contained the plasma burst like a cork in a champagne bottle. 1 second. Perfect fusion. But perfection in a garage meant nothing without proof, and proof meant experiments. Endless, blistering experiments. Emma lingered in the doorway, nightgown clutched at her throat, her face pale in the bulb's glow. She'd bandaged his latest burn, a flux splash the size of a quarter on his left forearm, red and weeping. But sleep evaded her upstairs. The children stirred faintly. Tommy mumbled about submarines in his dreams. "Ted," she whispered, voice cracking like cooling steel, "you've barely slept. That first weld, it's a miracle." "But dawn's coming. The banknotes due Friday. What if?" He looked up, eyes bloodshot but fierce, wiping flux dust from his brow with a rag that smelled of machine oil. "What if it works, Emma? What if this gun builds 50 subs by Christmas? What if it keeps Tommy from enlisting too young?" He held up the welder, its barrel scarred from 51 tests, the trigger worn smooth. "This is an obsession. It's our ticket out of $11-a-day hell." She crossed to him, touching the ceramic cap. Cool, fragile, revolutionary. He's right, but at what cost? Then make it unbreakable, for us. She kissed his temple, tasting salt and determination, then retreated, leaving him to the inferno. Ted filed the patent that morning, April 23, 1941, at the Vallejo County Clerk's office, a dusty room reeking of ink and mildew. Application No. 2,379 portable stud welding apparatus. Cost $35 scraped from Emma's teaching jar. The clerk, a bespectacled widow named Mrs. Hargrove, no relation, peered over her half-moons. "Nelson Specialty Welding Equipment Corp., eh? Bold for a garage outfit." Ted grinned. "Bold wins wars, ma'am. By noon he was back, incorporating the company on a $5 form, birth certificate of an empire. But patents didn't build guns. Experiments did. He attacked the prototype with a machinist's fury. First test, angle welding. Clamped a plate at 45 degrees, mimicking a sub's curved deck. Click. Z-zap, stud fused crooked, flux scattered like buckshot. Failure. Why? Cap too loose. He machined a tighter collet, grinding for 2 hours till his arm screamed. Test 2. Perfect. Vertical weld next. 90 degrees, upside down. Zap. Stud held a 50-pound pulley yanked by rope. It works at any angle. Ted whooped, the sound echoing off tin walls. Eat that, Morrison. But wait, 15 pounds tired a welder's arm in 20 studs. Solution, hollow barrel, aluminum grip from a junked carburetor. By dusk, down to 9 pounds, lighter than a rivet gun. Emma's fears grew with the nights. May 1st, mortgage payment late. She pawned her mother's locket, $12 for wire. Ted, neighbors talk. Mad welder's starving his family. Sarah asked why no milk. He paused mid-grind, the word dying. Guilt knifed him. I'm failing them. But then, radio blared, U-boat sink 5th tanker off Jersey. Duty surged. 2 more weeks, love, I promise. She nodded, but her eyes hollowed. He's slipping away. Friends turned. Big Mike pounded the door May 5th, 6-pack in hand. The garage reeked of burnt insulation. 73 failed studs littered the floor like spent casings. Teddy, Quigley's waitin'. Heard you quit the yard. Insane. Ted wiped sweat, showing the gun. Watch. Zap. Perfect stud. Mike whistled. Holy hell, but Morrison's poison, he'll blacklist you. Pete Ramirez joined, skeptical. Sell it to Kaiser's yard in Richmond? They build Liberty ships, bolts galore. Ted nodded. First pitch set. But Mike shook his head. You're obsessed, buddy? Emma's crying. Come back to sanity. They left beers undrunk. Door slammed. They're right. Am I mad? No. Obsession hardened to steel. Ted worked dawn to midnight, coffee black as flux. Mechanical details consumed him. Capacitor bank, 200 microfarads charged to 80 volts, discharging 800 amps peak. Flux, niter and aluminum powder mix, ignited at 5,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Ceramic cap, vitrified porcelain, 1/16-inch thick, containing splash to 2 inches. He tested 150 times. Overhead, zap, holds 100 pounds. Underwater simulation, wet, sizzle, still fuses. Even vibration, truck idling nearby, stud unmoved. Revelations piled. Add ground clamp for stability. Spring eject spent studs like a rifle. By May 15th, Mark II. 8 pounds, 0.8 second welds. 99% success. It's ready. Flashback, Fresno, 1920. Boy Ted 15 in Hargrove's shop. Rain-hammered tin roof. Old man Hargrove, roomy-eyed, handed him a broken generator. Fix it, son. World don't care about degrees, cares about sparks. Ted rewired by candlelight, hands bleeding. Success. Whir. Hargrove's pat. That's innovation, boy. Born from frustration. Cut to now, Ted traces old scar on palm. For you, old man. Emma enters at midnight, bearing sandwiches. You're glowing, Ted, like that boy I married. They ate on the bench, her head on his shoulder amid sparks. We're in this, Emma, fire and all. Emma's fears peaked May 20th. Bills cascaded. $28 mortgage, $6 electric, garage lights 24/7, $4 grocer, beans only. She confronted him, voice breaking. Ted, I love you. But this, it's eating us. Quit the yard for a pipe dream. Sarah's shoes have holes. Tommy fights bullies calling you crazy. What if it fails? What if Kaiser laughs too? Tears streaked her flour-dusted cheeks. Ted's heart cracked. She's right. I'm selfish. He held her, garage bulb flickering like their hope. One pitch. If no, I crawl back to Mare Island. But inside, liar. This gun's my soul. She slept alone that night. He welded till 5 a.m. Neighbors worsened it. Mrs. O'Leary next door banged pots at 3 a.m. Quiet, Nelson, some sleep for war workers. Kids chanted Mad Welder from the fence. Fellow yardmen, former pals, spat as he biked past. Traitor. Subs delay cause of you. Isolation clawed. Radio mocked. Japan masses fleet. America scrambles. Hurry. The ceramic flux cap's true breakthrough came May 25th, 2:17 a.m. Ted tested overhead on warped plate, simulating subbow curve. Zap. Stud fused but cap shattered, flux exploding like fireworks. Failure 189. Why? Thermal shock. Inspiration struck. Mix porcelain with silica sand, vitrify at 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit in Emma's canning kiln. Borrowed, $2 fee. He fired 12 caps overnight, garage a pottery sweatbox, fumes choking like tear gas. Test 190, zap, cap held. Stud perfect at 180 degree overhead. 191, sideways. 192, inverted, all flawless. He danced, gun aloft, laughing maniacally. The angle devil's dead. Emma woke to cheers, rushed in barefoot. What miracle now? He demoed. Zap, 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 3 studs, any angle. Breakfast welds love, she laughed through tears. My madman's genius. But obsession grew cancerous. Weight dropped 12 pounds in a month. Ribs showed like lathe flutes. Blisters layered blisters, left hand webbed in scar tissue. Emma bandaged nightly, whispering, come to bed. He couldn't. Visions haunted. Subs sinking slow, sailors dying from delayed decks. My fault if I stop. Kaiser pitch, May 28th. Richmond Shipyard No. 2, roaring Colossus building Liberty ships 10 a week. Ted biked 20 miles, gun in basket, sweat-soaked. Foreman Riley, Irish bulldog, eyed the contraption in his trailer office. Nelson, Mare Island reject, show me. Ted clamped plate zap, stud gleamed. 1 second, saves 400 hours per deck. Riley nodded, then called engineer. Unsafe, flux explosion risk, non-standard back to bolts. Laughter again, sharper than Morrison's. Garage tinkerer, stick to fixing bikes. Ted biked home defeated, rain lashing, gun rusting in basket. Emma waited, towel ready. Told you. He collapsed, sobbing. All for nothing? No. Dawn broke his despair. He refined. Safety shield, bakelite guard, auto flux feed. Tests resumed, 300 by June 1st. Success rate, 99.8%. June 3rd. Emma's breaking point. She packed a bag. I can't watch you die, Ted. Teaching pays $60 per month. I'll take the kids to Iowa. He dropped tools, knelt. Don't, 1 week. Sell first gun or I quit. She stayed, but tension crackled worse than arcs. Our marriage welds or snaps. June 7th, 11:42 p.m. Local machine shop, Harrington's in Vallejo, needed deck anchors. Ted demoed cold call. Owner Harry, skeptical, watched zap, zap, zap. Holy, $50 for one? $75, patent pending. Deal. First sale, cash in hand. Emma wept joy. Milk tomorrow. Ted whooped shipping Mark III overnight. Word trickled, 2 more shops ordered. $225 week 1. It's alive. But Navy shadow loomed. Morrison heard, sent warning letter, cease unauthorized devices. Bureau disapproval. Ted burned it. Laugh now. June 15th. Garage transformed. 20 prototypes lined like rifles. Phone rang. Small shipyard in Oakland. Heard about Nelson gun. Send 10. Rush. $750. Emma danced, but true fire test on real subscrap smuggled. Zap. Stud held 500 pounds. Ted grinned through smoke. Histories welded. As cicadas screamed July 1st Eve, Ted packed the 20th gun, patent approved by mail. Emma hugged him, mortgage paid. You did it. But radio crackled. Japanese fleet maneuvers. Pearl Harbor tensions rise. Ted stared at the welder, eyes steel. World needs this now. He'd just welded his way into history, though no one knew it yet. December 7th, 1941. Nelson Garage, Elm Street, Vallejo, California. The garage had transformed from a desperate bunker into a humming arsenal of defiance. 20 Mark III stud welders, each 8 pounds of polished steel, ceramic caps gleaming like pearl bullets, lined the workbench like soldiers awaiting orders. The air crackled with fresh solder and the faint ozone hum of test charges. The single bulb now joined by 2 shop lights bought with first sale cash. Outside, summer's cicadas had given way to winter's chill, but inside burned a forge that never cooled. Ted Nelson, gaunt but unbreakable at 36, wiped flux from his hands on a rag that had seen better decades. Patent No. 2379-129 hung framed on the wall, the yellowed shield against thieves. Nelson Specialty Welding Equipment Corp. had shipped 47 guns to date, $3,425 gross, enough to reclaim Emma's locket and put shoes on Sarah's feet. But sales trickled. Machine shops, small boatyards, a curious farmer welding silo anchors. The Navy, still blind. Morrison's warning letter curled in the trash like a dead snake. Laugh all you want, Ted thought, coiling cable. Your specs won't stop Zero fighters. Emma bustled in with coffee, her face softer now, worry lines fading like quenched welds. 47 guns, Ted. We're eating steak tonight. He grinned, pulling her close amid the steel. Steak's good, subs are better. But the radio on the shelf hissed static warnings. Japanese diplomats in Washington, fleet sightings off Formosa. Urgency gnawed. Hurry. Little did they know, dawn would shatter the world and ignite Ted's spark into an inferno. Sunday morning, December 7th, 7:32 a.m. Emma scrambled eggs in the kitchen, children giggling over comics. Ted tinkered with gun 48, filing the trigger guard smoother for women's hands. Rosie's coming soon. The radio crackled to life for weather. CBS News Bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor. Battleships burning, all military on alert. Emma dropped the spatula, yolk splattering like blood. Tommy froze. comic forgotten. Ted burst from the garage, face ashen. God almighty. They huddled by the Philco, voices trembling. Arizona sunk, 2,400 dead, war declared. The math hit Ted like a drop hammer. Pearl Harbor met total mobilization. 441 ships needed yesterday. Liberty ships, 10,000-ton behemoths, decks bolted in agony. Submarines, 120 more, Sturgeon's sisters waiting. His gun, perfect for both. Phone lines would burn. But first, silence. Vallejo froze. Church bells tolled. Neighbors wept on porches. Air raid sirens wailed false alarms. Ted gripped Emma. This is it. The world's begging now. She nodded, eyes fierce. Then answer. By 9:15 a.m., the phone rang. First tremor. Oakland shipyard foreman, voice shaking. Nelson, heard your gun on the dock grapevine. Bolt's killing us. Send 50 yesterday. Ted's pulse raced. $85 each, wired today. Click. He whooped, kids cheering. Emma tallied, $450. But it was just the spark. Demand exploded like flux in a plasma arc. By noon, the black rotary phone, once silent as a tomb, wouldn't stop ringing, its burring piercing the garage like machine gun fire. Ted answered bare-chested, pencil jammed behind ear, Emma logging orders on the kitchen wall with lipstick. Ring, Mare Island subcontractor, 50 guns for subdecks, rush. Ring, Kaiser Richmond Yard No. 2, 200, Liberty ships launching weekly. Ring, Bath Iron Works Maine, 100, train fare covered. Ring, a panicked Lutton Ellis from San Diego, Bureau panic, specs be damned, send 75. Ted's voice steadied through 23 calls, wired, COD Mark III any angle. Emma's lipstick tally, 892 guns, $75,820. The garage spun, Ted packing crates with frantic hammer thunks, Emma typing invoices on a rented Underwood, 2-day, kids stuffing Excelsior like mini-soldiers. Outside, Vallejo mobilized, housewives sewing flags, men queuing at recruiters, air thick with gasoline as trucks revved for war plants. But Ted's war was here, every ring a heartbeat of victory. Chaos clawed back. 2:17 p.m., power flickered. Garage lights dimmed, welders failed mid-test. Pacific Gas and Electric overloaded, half Vallejo blacked out. Ted cursed, coiling by flashlight. Emma, generator from Hargrove's junkyard, now! She biked 3 miles in skirt, towed the rusty Onan, $18 cash. Restart, chugga-chugga. But parts? Copper wire gone citywide, ceramic kilns booked for 6 weeks. Supplier phoned, war priority Nelson, no flux till 42. Ted scavenged, stripped house wiring. Emma, kitchen dark, fine. Fired caps in backyard fire pit. Neighbors, mad welders bombing us. Blisters reopened, hands bled on crates. 487 guns packed by dusk, half short flux caps. Emma collapsed, sobbing. We can't, too much. Ted knelt, blood on her apron. We will, for Pearl. Flashback. Fresno, 1931. Dust bowl choked skies brown. Ted, 26, wed Emma in Hargrove's shop amid tractor parts. Vows by lantern, through storm or shine, will spark. She laughed then, cried now, packing beside him. Remember our promise? He nodded, kissing scarred knuckles. Shining now. Kids helped, Tommy 10 hammering crates, Daddy's guns beat Japs. Sarah, 8, drawing studs on boxes. Family forge glowed. Radio, Roosevelt Day of Infamy. Duty sealed. 6:42 p.m., crisis breakthrough, flux shortage solved. Ted mixed backyard alt, niter from stump remover, 20 drugstore, aluminum from pie tins, Emma baked 50 empties. Test batch, zap, stud perfect, cheaper, homemade flux, scale it. Emma stirred vats in wash basin, chemical tang burning eyes. By midnight, 1,200 pounds ready. Phone rang, 247th call, Navy quartermaster, voice desperate. Nelson, bureau override, 500 guns, contract tomorrow. Ted grinned through smoke, signed in blood, but exhaustion peaked. 2 a.m., Ted swayed 892 crate half-nailed. Emma dragged him to bed. Sleep hero, dawn ships him. He dreamed, sparks over Pearl, subs launching like arrows. Dawn, December 8th. Trucks back to garage, neighbors gawking as Western Union boy delivered $10,000 wire first installment. Shipments flew. Santa Fe railcar loaded 300 guns. Kaiser, Richmond roars, 10 Liberties a week now. UPS vans 150. Oakland, sub SS 212 deck in 3 days. Even biplane courier 20 to Bremerton. Telegrams piled. Mare Island 100 units. Lit Morrison requests demo. Ted laughed raw. Demo? Beg. By noon, 2,314 guns shipped. $196,000 booked. Garage empty. Bungalow stuffed crates to rafters. Emma banked $8,500. Mortgage 5 years paid. Kids college seated. Neighbors cheered. Mad welders profit. Big Mike phoned. Humbled. Teddy hired at Kaiser. Using your gun, sorry. Build fast, Mike, for Pearl. Morrison's ghost struck. 4:15 p.m., sheriff at door, badge gleaming. Ted Nelson, Bureau cease and desist, unauthorized wartime device. Emma gasped, kids hid, Ted snatched paper, non-standard, safety violation, impound guns, heart sank after all. But telegram arrived simultaneous. Washington, emergency production order 1941-7B, Nelson Stud Welder, approved, 10,000 units month, signed Captain Harrison, Bureau of Ships. Ted waved paper. Sheriff, read this. Man whistled, tipped hat, carry on, sir. Morrison's fax burned in fireplace. Checkmate, evening. Family dinner, steak, real milk. Emma raised glass jar. To Ted, the man who outwelded the Navy. Tommy, Daddy's gun sank the Japs. Laughter healed scars. But radio, first casualties list, 177 confirmed. Ted's joy tempered, not victory, vengeance. Emma touched his hand. Your sparks save them now. December 10th. First feedback flooded. Kaiser Cable, Liberty ship KE-14 deck, 18 hours versus 450, launched yesterday. Mare Island photo, women welders, Wendy the welder, zapping studs, grins through goggles. Nelson guns, subs SS 213-215 decks done, 12 days saved. Phone, lit Ellis, Bureau eats crow, Morrison demoted, Harrison wants meeting. Numbers hit, 5,000 man-hours saved week 1. Ted tallied on wall, goal, 50 million by 45. Garage reborn hired 3 packers, $1. December 15th, Captain Harrison arrived unannounced, uniform crisp 50s, eyes sharp as calipers, garage reeked triumph, 100 guns charging. Mr. Nelson, Bureau apology, your gun's the edge. Demo, zap zap zap. Harrison nodded. $2 million contract, 5,000 month. Handshake sealed. Emma watched, tears proud. They begged. Ted, simplicity wins. Outside, Vallejo saluted. Paperboy, hero. As snow dusted Elm Street that Christmas Eve, Ted shipped 5,000. Radio blaring, Rosie's rivet, Arsenal's roar. Emma hung stockings by welder glow. World changed, love. But Harrison's warning whispered, scale now or lose. Garage walls closed. Dreams of factory loomed. The same Navy that mocked him now begged for his machines. December 16th, 1941. Nelson Garage, Elm Street, Vallejo, California. Snowflakes swirled outside the bungalow like errant sparks, dusting the crabgrass yard where children's sleds lay abandoned since Pearl Harbor. Inside the garage, the air thrummed with electric life. 5 Mark III stud welders charging on jury-rigged outlets, their ceramic caps glowing faintly orange, casting eerie shadows on walls now plastered with telegrams. Kaiser, 12 Liberties launched. Decks in 2 days. And Mare Island, sub SS 216 commissioned early. Ted Nelson, 36 and forged harder than battleship plate, stood amid the chaos, clipboard in one hand, hammer in the other. The $2 million Navy contract from Captain Harrison burned in his pocket like a live wire. 5,000 guns per month, or America's shipyards choked. But the garage? Still a 10 by 12 tomb of possibility. Its workbench scarred from 892 prototypes, floor littered with flux tins and cable scraps. Emma tallied invoices by lamplight, her teacher's ledger now a war ledger. $196,000 booked, $8,500 banked. 3 packers, neighbors' boys $1 hour, hammered crates, their thunk-thunk echoing like distant artillery. Ted, Emma called, voice steady but eyes wide. Harrison said, scale now. This garage, it's bursting. He nodded, wiping solder from his brow, tasting victory and rust. Then we build a factory, from nothing. Outside, Vallejo hummed war, blackout curtains drawn, air raid drills shrilling. Ted's spark had ignited, but mass production, that was the inferno. Dawn, December 17th. First crisis, raw materials. Phone rang at 5:47 a.m. Supplier, Warboard rationed copper. Navy gets 90%. You? Scraps. Ted slammed fist on bench, scattering studs like buckshot. No wire, no guns. Emma brewed coffee black as flux. Think, love. Inspiration struck. Scavenge. He biked to Oakland junkyards at sunrise, bartering $50 for 2 tons of radio wire, lathe rods, Bakelite from wrecked Fords. War scrap for war guns. By noon, 500-pound sorted, garage a rat's nest of tangles. Test weld, zap, perfect. We're scrap kings now. Emma laughed, first real joy since Pearl. But labor? 3 boys couldn't build 5,000 a month. Revelation, hire row of Rosies, women idled from teaching sewing. Add in Vallejo Times Herald, $1.25 per hour. Weld destiny. Response, 47 applicants by dusk. December 20th. Workers arrived, 20 women, ages 1945, apron swapped for overalls. Wendy Callahan, 28, former seamstress. Wendy the welder, led, show us Mr. Nelson. Ted demoed, clamp plate, load stud, zap. 1 second, gasps rippled. Easier than hemming. But chaos erupted. Garage too small, elbows knocked, flux vats, cables tripped feet. First shift, 12 guns built. Goal, 167 day. Failure. Wendy slipped, ceramic cap shattering, too wasted. Tears, I'm no good. Ted knelt, hands gentle on hers. You're building subs, Wendy, try again. Zap. Perfect. Pride bloomed. But power surged. Lights flickered, welder shorted. Emma jury-rigged house fuse box with pliers. No blackout here. By night, 28 guns. Progress. Radio blared, Japan invades Philippines, ships needed now. Pressure crushed. December 25th, Christmas Day, no holiday. Target, 500 guns. But storm hit. Bay gale flooded garage, 200 crates waterlogged. Wires corroded, 147 studs rusted. Workers wept amid puddles. Foreman Jenkins, ex-Mare Island, hired $2. Cursed, garage ain't factory, need roof. Phone, Harrison, 1,000 due Jan 1st or contract void. Ted paced, snow melting on boots. All lost? Emma rallied women, baked Christmas flux mix, dry crates by stoves. Kitchen became chemistry lab, niter pies scented with cinnamon. By midnight, 312 guns salvaged. Wendy hugged Ted, family now. But doubt gnawed, garage dying. Flashback, Fresno, 1929, crash hit, Hargrove shop shuttered, Ted 24, wed Emma in empty barn. We'll build from dust, he vowed. She nodded, spark by spark. Cut to now, Christmas Eve, workers sang carols over zaps. Tommy 10 handed Wendy a stud, for daddy's subs. Sarah drew angels on crates. Ted teared up Emma's hand in his, like then, but bigger. Wendy, you're our Hargrove, forge glowed human. December 28th, factory birth, land hunt. Ted scouted Vallejo Industrial Strip, abandoned cannery, 5,000 sq ft, 150-month lease. Cash from first 1,000 guns, $85,000, signed at noon. Move, Bedlam. Women hauled benches on dollies, kids pulled cables like reindeer. New floor, concrete expanse, room for 50 welders. Power, 3-phase, 440 volts installed, $800 Navy paid. Revelation, assembly line. Wendy suggested, like Ford's Model T stations. Ted sketched, Station 1, wire wind, 2 women, 2, barrel thread, 3, ceramic fire, oven bank, 4, test zap, Ted overseas, 5, crate, Emma logs. First run, 89 guns day. Line works, but growing pains, flux vat exploded, chemical burn on Rosie number 14. Safety drill born, goggles mandatory, January 1st, 1942, factory roared. Workers, 2050, shift 7 a 7 p.m., coffee breaks with zaps for fun. Output, Jan 1, 167, Jan 7, 512, Jan 15, 200. Telegrams flew, Kaiser, Liberty KE-45 deck, 16 hours, your guns godsends. Mare Island, SS-220 launched, 5 days early. Nelson saves Navy. Studs, thousands month, when half-inch threaded pins, flux-coated, shipped in barrels like ammo. Women transformed, Wendy's crew, Weldy's warriors, hit 99.8% perfect. Songs born, zap that stud Rosie's way. Build the fleet by break o' day. Ted walked line, pride swelling. Emma's office, typewriter clack clack, 500,000 month booked. January 20th, sabotage scare, factory night watch. Broken window, 200 guns stolen. Panic, Harrison phoned, Japan spies? Replace now. Ted armed women with wrenches, FBI swept, found kids stealing for scrap. But delay, 3 days offline. Output dip, 900 day. Workers struck, demanded $50 hour. Ted met, fair, plus bonus per 1,000, settled. Lesson, lockdown, guards hired, $1.20 hour. Resilience forged. January 25th, Wendy's moment. Pregnant, she zapped 500th gun. For my boy, sailor someday. Ted pinned Rosette, First Lieutenant Callahan, tears. Emma, look what you built, Ted, not guns, family. Radio, Rosie's, 6 million women in arsenals. Pride surged, flashback, garage despair, now thunder. February 1st, 5,000 month hit. Factory, 150 workers total, 100 Rosies, 50 men. Studs, 50,000 month, pallets towering like Liberty keels. Harrison visited, $5 million extension. Mark IV, lighter, 0.5 sec. Ted unveiled, aluminum alloy, 6 pounds zap. Done. Cheers deafened. Numbers, month 1, 12,000 man-hours saved shipyards. Projection, 50 million by 45. Big Mike visited, Kaiser Foreman now. Teddy, your guns built 47 Liberties, I was wrong. Hug. Build more. February 15th, first $1 million shipment. Train car NS 1942A, won 200 guns to East Coast. Whistle blew, women waved flags. Ted kissed Emma amid steam, from garage to rails. Wendy, every spark's a heartbeat. Harrison telegram, Arsenal roars thanks to Nelson. Factory banner, studs by the thousands. Output, 16,200 month. Vallejo paper, Mad Welder's empire. Neighbors feasted. Steak from Ted. March 1st, 1942. Factory night shift zapped in rhythm, sparks cascading like fireworks over bay. Emma tallied $1.2 million. Empire Ted. But Harrison's letter arrived. Navy inspection March 15th. Prove or lose all. Ted gripped Mark IV. Eyes steel. They'll see. Every spark from his gun became a heartbeat of victory. March 15th, 1942. Nelson Specialty Welding Factory, Vallejo Industrial Strip, California. The factory roared like a Liberty ship's engine room at full throttle, a 5,000-square-foot cathedral of steel and sweat, where the air shimmered with the blue-white flash of 150 Mark IV stud welders firing in synchronized zap-zap-zap rhythm. Sparks rained like golden confetti, illuminating rows of women in overalls, Rosies with bandanas and steady hands, clamping plates, loading studs, and fusing metal faster than a heartbeat. The concrete floor vibrated under stamping presses, churning 60,000 studs per day, their thunk-thunk blending with the clack-clack of Emma's typewriter in the glassed office and the whir of conveyor belts snaking crates to loading docks. Outside, Vallejo's spring sun glinted off rail spurs where train NS 1942B waited, 1,500 guns ready for East Coast shipyards. Banners fluttered, studs by the thousands, sparks save ships. Ted Nelson, 37 now, lean and tireless in a fresh shirt, walked the line like a general inspecting troops. Output, 6,200 guns month, $1.2 million booked, 18,000 man-hours saved across Mare Island and Kaiser alone. Wendy Callahan, belly swelling with her first, led Weldy's warriors at Station 4, her zap hitting 99.9% perfect. Mr. Nelson, inspection today, Navy brass incoming. Ted nodded, tasting solder and triumph. Let him see what welders built. Emma handed him Harrison's letter from her ledger. Formal inspection, 10 a.m., prove mass production, or lose $5 million extension. Pressure hummed like a charge capacitor. They mocked me once. Today they bow. But whispers rippled. Late Morrison, demoted but venomous, rode with the delegation. The apology Ted craved, it waited in the sparks. 9:45 a.m. Factory hushed, women polished barrels to mirror shine, kids Tommy and Sarah swept flux dust into neat piles. Ted reviewed logs, Mark IV specs, 6 pounds, 0.5 second weld, any angle, 100% safety. Safety shields gleamed, flux vats vented clean. Revelation, demo piece, full submarine deck panel, 12 by 12 feet, bolted traditionally, 450 hours sim versus Nelson's apt 4.2 hours. Wendy bolted sign, simplicity wins. Emma squeezed his arm. You're ready, love. Horn blared outside. 3 black Packards pulled up, dust swirling. Captain Elias Harrison, 52, silver-haired Bureau of Ships lion, stepped out first, uniform crisp, eyes appraising. Beside him, 2 engineers with calipers, a stenographer, and Ted's gut twisted. Wilter Harlan Morrison, 33, stripes stripped to unsign, face sour as spoiled flux. Nelson, Harrison boomed, shaking hands firm, show us the miracle. Ted led inside. 150 workers snapping salutes with zaps. Morrison sneered, garage toys still unsafe. Laugh now. Tour began. Station 1 wire winding 20 Rosie spinning cable at 200 feet min. Harrison nodded. Efficient. Station 2 barrel threading dies clicking to 100 hour. Engineer measured tolerance 0.01 inch. MIT quality. Morrison tapped foot. Station 3 ceramic firing. Kilns glowing cherry red. 5,000 caps day. Wendy demoed loading. Pregnant and perfect, sir. Laughter rippled. But Station 4, test zap. Morrison interrupted. Unsafe. Flux explosion risk. Bureau spec 1940. Ted clamp plate aimed Mark IV watch. Zap. Stud gleamed. 0.5 seconds. Pull test. 500 pounds immovable. Morrison flushed. 1 weld proves nothing. Tension crackled. Harrison. Full demo, Nelson. Workers held breath. Emma gripped ledger. Crisis at 10:32 a.m. Overhead weld station simulating sub-bow curve. Rosie Norm 27, nervous under scrutiny, loaded crooked stud. Click. Z-zap. Flux cap shattered mildly, puff smoking harmlessly. Stud fused. Imperfect 1/16-inch tilt. Morrison pounced. See, unsafe, non-standard, impound all. Harrison frowned. Engineer scribbled. Rosie teared. My fault, Mr. Nelson. Factory froze, 150 eyes on Ted. Morrison gloated. Told you, Captain. Welder's toy fails. Heart pounded like drop hammer. All lost. Emma whispered. Fix it. But Morrison waved cease order. Workers murmured mutiny. Outside train S1942B idled, mocking. Mare Island, March 1941. Morrison's laugh echoing, stick to welding. Cut to Fresno, 1915. Boy Ted 10 fixed tractor alone in storm. Father setbacks just preheat, son. Cut to now, Ted knelt by Rosie, voice gentle. Not your fault, mine for nerves. Stood, faced Morrison eye to eye. One bad weld, your bolts fail daily, men die, crowd gasped. Harrison, enough, Dada Nelson. Emotional steel hardened. Wendy rallied, warriors, zap for Rosie. Zap, 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 30 perfect overheads in 15 seconds. Rosie retried, perfect. Cheers erupted. Morrison wilted. My turn. 10:48 a.m. Deck demo revelation. Ted unveiled 12x12 panel side by side. Left bolted traditionally, 450-hour scars, scaffolding mock-up towering. Right, blank, ready. Watch simplicity. Wendy led. 150 studs, any angle. Zap, 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 symphony. Sparks cascading slow-mo. Timer 4 hours 12 minutes. Studs gleamed uniform. Planks screwed in 20 minutes. Total 4.5 hours. Versus bolts 450. Harrison's eyes widened tenfold. Engineers calculated 98% man-hour savings. Morrison silent, clipboard limp. Revelation, pull test. 1,000 pounds across deck. Unmoved. Torch cut. Welds deeper than bolts. Safer. Stronger. Rosie hugged Ted. Told ya. Factory thundered applause. 11:15 a.m. Harrison pulled Ted aside. Office reeking ink and victory. Numbers don't lie. Morrison, out. Ensign slunk away, defeated. Harrison extended hand. $10 million year. 20,000 guns month. Mark V prototype, submarine specific. But true turning point, apology. Harrison cleared throat. Mr. Nelson, the Bureau, we mocked you, laughed at sketches. You proved us wrong. Your gun's the Navy's spine. Ted's throat tightened. Vindication sweeter than Emma's steak. For the welders, sir, and the sailors. Handshake sealed. Stenographer typed, Nelson, approved hero. Outside, workers cheered as Morrison's Packard peeled out, tailpipe coughing disgrace. Lunch break. Emma uncorked lemonade. Rosie's danced. Wendy pinned Ted's chest. Captain's rosette for the mad welder. Tommy, Daddy beat the bad lieutenant. Sarah drew Morrison as clown. Flashback, garage tears, Emma's doubts. Now, feast, ham from Kaiser thanks. We did it, Emma whispered, kissing him amid zaps. You did. Pride swelled, not wealth, lives saved. Radio, Coral Sea sub sink 3 Jap tankers, Nelson decks. Tears mixed lemonade. 2 p.m. E-award ceremony, unscheduled. Harrison's gift. Factory floor cleared, 150 workers in rows, flags waving. Band from Vallejo High, anchors away. Harrison on crate platform, gong clang, Army Navy E for excellence. Citation read, Theodore Nelson, whose stud welder has saved the United States Navy 50 million man-hours to date. From Pearl Harbor to victory, his spark endures. Numbers scrolled banner, 50,000 mH. Band swelled, confetti, flux powder, rained. Gong struck. Harrison pinned gold E on Ted's chest, eagle over weld spark. Hero. Crowd erupted. Rosie zap salute, sparks exploding fireworks. Wendy our quiet hero. Big from laughs to legends. Emma teared, kids hugged legs. Ted took mic, voice gravel. Not me. You weldies warriors. Every zap a heartbeat for our boys. Factory shook, hugs, tears, zap, zap, zap crescendo. Harrison, Nelson, you shame generals. Flashbulbs popped, Villagum's herald, mad welder wins war. Train number NS 1942B whistled farewell, 1,500 guns aboard. Dusk. Factory quieted, Ted and Emma on roof, E gleaming. 50 million hours, she marveled. Time itself yours. He traced pin, simplicity's weapon. Below, Rosie sang, zap that stud. Horizon glowed, shipyard lights pulsing faster. Morris's shadow gone, Harrison's contract ironclad. As stars pierced spring sky, Ted gripped Mark V blueprint, submarine curve optimized. Emma, what next? Radio crackled. Midway looms. Subs needed yesterday. Harrison's whisper echoed. Ripple worldwide now. Ted smiled steel. Lives next. He had done what generals couldn't. Made time itself a weapon. June 1st, 1942. Nelson Specialty Welding Factory, Vallejo Industrial Strip, California. The factory had evolved into a thunderous colossus. Its 5,000 square foot expanse now doubled to 10,000, with a new wing of corrugated steel that rattled under the ceaseless zap 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 of 400 Mark V stud welders firing like a mechanized orchestra. Sparks cascaded in golden curtains from 3 assembly lines, illuminating 300 Rosies and Wendys, women with rolled sleeves and unyielding grins, clamping plates, loading flux-coated studs, and fusing metal at 20,000 guns per month. The air hummed with the whir of conveyor belts hauling pallets of 60,000 studs daily, their threaded pins glinting like brass cartridges, while overhead cranes clanged crates to rail spurs where train Hauser NS 1942M idled, 2,000 units bound for Groton, Connecticut. Banners spanned rafters, 50 million man-hours saved and counting. Ted Nelson, 37 and etched with purpose, strode the floor in scuffed boots, clipboard tallying $10 million quarterly. The Army-Navy E-pin gleamed on his chest, a talisman against doubt. Emma's office overlooked the lines, her typewriter clacking contracts in 5 languages. Wendy Callahan, 5 months along and lieutenant of Weldy's Warriors, led Station 5 with a zap that hit 100% perfect. Mr. Nelson, Bath Ironworks cables, subs, Heshav SS-245 deck in 3 days flat. Ted nodded, inhaling ozone and pride. Ripples worldwide now. But Captain Harrison's whisper from the E Award haunted. Scale to every yard, Nelson, or Japan wins the sea. Below, Rosie sang, Zap that stud, from bay to blue. The spark had leaped shipyards. Now it conquered oceans. Millions of lives hung on every flash. Dawn shift, June 2nd. First cable from abroad, British Admiralty via Scrambler. Nelson guns for Clydebank Yard, Weld HMS Vanguard decks. U-boats sinking convoys send 1,500 urgent. Ted's pulse surged. Across Atlantic. Revelation Global Specs, Mark V adapted, Imperial studs, half-inch metric equiver, 240 volts for UK grids. Emma translated, Churchill thanks personally. By noon, line retooled, 500 guns crated for Liverpool. Rosie No. 42 Polish immigrant, for my brothers in subs, test zap, perfect. Output dip, 0. Harrison phoned Canada next Halifax, Rosie welders inbound. Numbers hit. 75 million man-hours saved. Liberty had KE-100 launched 7 days early. Ted pinned map, pins bloomed, Portland, Philly, Belfast. Ripple waves, June 5th. Shipyards desperate. Phone banks rang non-stop, 10 lines, Emma's girls logging. Mare Island, 200 guns, SS-250 curved decks. Kaiser Richmond, 500 Liberty K-102 women-only crew. Bath Iron, 300 destroyers D-47 any angle. Newcastle, Australia, 100 HMS Australia refit versus zeros. Tension, stud shortage, mines ration steel only 40,000 day. Workers stretch, double shifts, coffee IVs. Wendy rallied warriors zap for Rosie's sisters down under, but fatigue bit. Rosie 88 fainted mid-zap, flux burn on arm. Clinic born, nurse station, bandages scented iodine. Ted walked line, rest rotates, lives first. Output 22,000 month. Radio, Guadalcanal, Marines need ships now. Pressure crushed like teal plates. June 10th. U-boat crisis. Convoy PQ-17 Arctic, 3 merchantmen sunk carrying Nelson guns. 800 units lost to Atlantic depths. Harrison roared, replace triple, or Rosie's idle. Factory scrambled, lines jammed, crates toppled. Storm hit Vallejo, roof leak flooded kiln room, 2,000 ceramic caps ruined, $4,000 waste. Wendy slipped in puddle, baby. Ted caught her, heart-stopping. All clear, false alarm. But delay. Output 15,000 weak. Workers wept, Emma tallied red ink. Ted, we can't lose momentum. Morrison's ghost whispered via mem, told you unsafe overseas. Never. Ted locked doors. All hands, rebuild tonight. Pearl Harbor, Emma's tears, spark for Tommy. Cut to now, night shift, lanterns glow. Wendy bandaged ankle, zapped 100th rebuild. For my Rosie sisters on Liberties, baby's safe. Rosie No. 88 sang Polish lullaby over zaps. Tommy 11 loaded studs. Daddy like Guadalcanal Marines? Ted hugged stronger, your zap saves him. Emma brought stew, family circle amid sparks. Ripples love Ted. Radio sub S-39 sinks Jap oiler, Nelson decks held, tears welded resolve. June 12th, 3:17 a.m. breakthrough, stud alloy. Steel shortage, mix chrome scrap tires plus backyard aluminum pots. Test zap, stronger, 1,200 pounds pull. War alloy, Wendy scaled 10 tons per day. Kilns refired, caps dry by dawn. Revelation, Rosie training films 8mm reels, Ted narrating clamp, load, zap victory. Shipped to 50 yards. Halifax cable, Canadian Wendy's zapping 98% thanks. Output surge 25,000 month. Pins hit map, Sydney, Bombay, worldwide, June 15th to 30th. Shipyards transformed. Mare Island, subs air SS-251-260, decks 2.5 days versus 21. Women chant, Nelson, Nelson, Kaiser, Liberty KE-105, Rosie Wendy clone zap 300 studs per hour. Sparks slow-mo, safer welds, no scaffold falls, Jimmy Ruiz avenged. Bath, destroyers DE-50 any angle zaps curve hulls. Rosie letters flooded, Dear Ted, my weld saved SS-255 from kamikaze. Numbers Week 1, 1.2 million mH saved. Total 85 million. Australia, HMAS Sydney decks in 48 hours, sinks sub. UK, HMS Illustrious, carrier air deck zapped, launches Spitfires over Malta. Canada, Halifax Rosies, faster than maple syrup. Millions impacted, 2,400 Pearl Widows sons safer. Guadalcanal Marines shelled less, ships faster. Ted's Wall, 100 million by July. June 25th, spy scare. Factory fence cut, blueprints stolen. FBI raid, found Morrison's cousin, discharged welder. Interrogation, sold to Jap consul, your gun's weakness. Panic, Harrison, secure halt. Ted armed guards, 50-hour, women patrolled with wrenches. Delay 2 days offline. Output dip, 18,000. Rosie number 12, caught saboteur, bonus $50. Warriors win, lesson, encrypted specs, code Spark Eagle. Resilience stronger. June 28th, Wendy's birth, boy, Nelson Spark Callahan. Factory halted, 300 Rosies cheered, bassinet zaps. Letter from subsailor, your deck held torpedo, home to family. Ted teared, pinned to wall. Emma, not ours, lives. Flashback, garage, Emma's fears. Now, Empire of Women. Rosie choir, zap for baby sparks. Pride, global family, July 1st. Harrison's visit, factory tour, zaps deafening. Nelson, ripples tidal wave, 120 yards using subs sink 15% more Jap ships. New contract, $50 million year. Mark Fiss automated line, map full, pins worldwide. Cable, Churchill, Yank welder turns tide. Numbers, 100 million mH saved. Wendy back, baby sling, zap with me son. Cheers. Big Mike, Kaiser, 200 Liberties, your sparks, July 4th. Victory fireworks, factory lit, 25,000 guns shipped. Rosie's danced, subs launched on Bay Honor. Harrison gong, Nelson, saved 5 million lives, faster ships, safer seas. Banner, ripple equals lives. Ted Mike, every zap, your heart beats. Sparks exploded, finale, slow-mo rain. Vallejo saluted, papers, welder's world. Trainhaber NS 1940Z whistled, 3,000 to Pacific, dusk, July 4th. Ted Emma roof, baby spark cooing, 100 million, she marveled. Stars, ship lights pulsed worldwide. Radio, Tarawa next, ships must fly. Harrison's note, peace pivots soon. Ted grip Mark V6, war ends, my spark endures. He didn't just save ours, he saved lives. August 15, 1945. Nelson Specialty Welding Factory, Vallejo Industrial Strip, California. The factory that once thundered with war's fury now echoed with a hollow clank-clank. Conveyor belts stilled. 400 Mark VI stud welders racked like silent sentinels, their ceramic caps dulled by disuse. Sparks no longer rained. Instead, dust motes danced in shafts of afternoon sun piercing high windows. Outside, Vallejo's victory banners sagged in the breeze. VJ Day confetti still clinging to crabgrass like faded metals. Trainhaber NS 1945Z, the last war shipment of 5,000 guns to Okinawa, had whistled away at dawn, its choo-choo a funeral dirge for the arsenal of democracy. Inside, 300 Rosies, Wendy's transformed into mothers and wives, folded overalls into neat stacks, their zap-zap songs replaced by sniffles and hugs. Banners read, 200 million man-hours saved, war won. Ted Nelson, 40 now, silver threading his temples like weld beads, stood at the empty loading dock, the Army-Navy E-pin heavy on his chest. Emma's ledger closed with a final thud. $250 million total contracts, 1.2 million guns shipped worldwide. Wendy Callahan, cradling toddler Nelson Spark, 3 years old, gap-toothed grin, wiped tears from her eyes. Mr. Nelson, it's over. The zaps, silent. Ted nodded, inhaling stale ozone instead of fresh flux. War ends, Wendy, but our spark pivots to peace. Captain Harrison's final telegram curled in his pocket. Nelson, your guns won the seas. Build the world now. Factories fell silent across America, but Ted's, it would roar anew, for bridges, cars, towers reaching heaven. The welder who armed victory now forged tomorrow. August 16th, dawn. First pivot call, U.S. Steel Pittsburgh. Nelson, Golden Gate refit, zap bridge anchors, no rivets. Ted's eyes lit, peace steel. Revelation, Mark 7 civilian model, 4 pounds, 220 volts home power, $49 retail. Emma dusted blueprints, studs for girders, not guns. By noon, line retooled. War kilns baked bridge studs, 3-inch giants. Test zap on I-beam scrap, perfect fusion, 5,000 pounds hold. Wendy whooped, spark clapping, boom mama, output plan, 10,000 month civilian. Rosie number 42, from subs to spans, still saving lives. Harrison phoned. Bureau endorses, world needs Nelson. Map repinned, pins shifted, NYC, London, Tokyo. Global peace. August 20th. Factory silence shattered, demobilization chaos. 200 Rosies wept farewells. Kids Tommy 16 enlisting and Sarah 14 college-bound hugged. Daddy, Zap's end. Bills loomed. 50,000 month lease, 100 idle kilns. War board cut. No more contracts, sell or scrap. Tension, labor strike whispers, men returning demanding jobs. Wendy rallied. Warriors pivot. Zap bridges. But scrap dealers circled like vultures. Kevit, 10,000 for all welders. Ted pace stock. Never. Our babies build cathedrals. Emma tallied. $2 million reserves. 6 months runway. Radio. Factories shutter. Unemployment soars. Pressure. Pivot or perish. September 1st. First peace pitch. Kaiser Bridge Division, Oakland. Ted demoed Mark 7 on Golden Gate cable mock-up. Zap stud gleamed. But foreman, ex-Liberty boss. Rivets are tradition. Your gun? Peacetime fancy. Too fast, unsafe. Laughter echoed Morrison's ghost. Deal killed. Back home bank letter. $100,000 loan due. Foreclose if late. Rosie 88 now teacher. Ted, we believed. Don't quit. Factory ghosts. Empty benches. Silent belts. Wendy sobbed. Sparks dying. Ted locked doors. Doubt crushing. War won. Me lost. Emma garage all over. Heart cracked like flux cap. Flashback. Fresno 1929 crash. Empty shop. Emma's hand. Dust to spark. Cut to 1941 garage. First zap. Cut to now. Ted knelt by idle welder. Tracing scars. Tommy, Dad, you beat Japs. Beat banks. Sarah for us. Wendy gathered 50 ex-Rosies. Circle. Hands linked. Zap prayer for peace. Imaginary zap. Tears flowed. Emma family forged. Ted always. Resolve reheated. Pivot harder. Radio MacArthur in Tokyo. Rebuild Japan. Duty reborn. September 5th, 2:17 a.m. Breakthrough. Auto industry. Ford Dearborn cable. Model T frames. Zap studs. No bolts. Revelation. Mark 8 assembly line feeder. 0.3 sec weld. Ted retooled overnight. Conveyor sync. Robotic arm. War scrap. Test on 46 Ford hood. Zap 100 studs min. Cars fly. Wendy scaled. 20 units day. Pitch. Detroit trip. Emma packed lunch. Success. 500 guns. $250,000. Reserves doubled. Rosie choir reborn. Zap that frame Detroit way. Map pins Detroit, Chicago. Wheels turn. September-October 1945. Factory revived. Workers 150. 80 ex-Rosies, 70 vets. Output. Bridges first. Golden Gate number 2 span. 1,200 studs, 4 hours versus 200. Nelson spans Bay. NYC Empire State retrofit. Skyscraper anchors zapped. No scaffolds. Eddie Hale avenged. Autos. Ford 10,000 F1 trucks month. Frames 2x faster. Letters flooded. Dear Ted, your studs hold my Chevy. Numbers. Month 1, 50,000 civilian studs. Total legacy, 250 million MH war plus 10 million peace. London, Thames Bridge, British Wendy's, Blimey Churchill approves. Tokyo, MacArthur, rebuild with Nelson, peace studs. Wendy from bombs to beams. Songs, Zap That Tower, Rosie's Way. November 10th. Union War, vets stormed gates, $2 or strike. Fists flew, line halted. Ted met, warriors first, $1.75 all, settled bloody noses. But fire, kiln explosion, 5,000 caps lost, $10,000. Wendy saved spark from flames. My boy, Ted rebuilt, sprinklers installed, lesson, safety eternal. Output dip, 8,000 month. Resilience, fire forges stronger. November 15th, Wendy's wedding, factory floor altar, zaps as bells. Ted walked her, from warriors to wife. Spark scattered petals. Emma, look, our ripple. Flashback, pearl tears. Now, vets Rosie's danced. Tommy shipped out, Korea whispers, your studs hold me, Dad. Pride, always. Rosie letter, built sub saved husband, now bridge for kids. Lives eternal. December 1st, global standard born. American Welding Society Nelson Stud ISO approved world norm. Contract 100 million 5 years infrastructure boom. Harrison visited civilian Ted, you pivoted empires. Factory tour, Mark 1 wireless 2-pound zap, future, map full, 50 countries. Big Mike, Kaiser Bridges, 100 spans, your sparks, numbers 20 million MH piece. Wendy war over legacy burns. December 7th, Pearl anniversary. Factory gala, 1,000 guests, zaps fireworks. Banner studs worldwide, bridges, cars, skyscrapers. Ted Mike from garage defiance to global steel. Rosie choir, zap that piece. Emma pinned AWS gold. Harrison, you built more than machines belief. Sparks finale, slow-mo rain over cake. Vallejo toasted Mad Welder's World. Train NS 1945P, whistled 2000 to Eiffel Tower refit. Christmas Eve 1945. Ted Emma roof, snow falling. Empire of Peace, she marveled. Below, factory glowed, night shift zapping Tokyo beams. Radio, UN forms, world rebuilds. Wendy's note, spark forever. Ted gripped Mark eyeing, 1994 calls. The war was over, but his spark still burned. January 1, 1994. Nelson Specialty Welding Headquarters, Vallejo, California. The headquarters towered as a gleaming monument on the Vallejo industrial strip, a 100,000-square-foot marvel of glass and steel, its facade studded with Mark X Phi welders firing ceremonial zap-zap-zaps that etched golden arcs across a lobby wall, memorializing 250 million man-hours saved. Outside, the Pacific sun warmed a sculpture garden, a Liberty ship bow fused to a Golden Gate span, all held by Nelson studs, symbols of war to peace. Inside, holographic displays flickered. 1941 garage, 2025 global standard, 500 million welds year. Suits from Tokyo and Berlin mingled with gray-haired Rosies at the New Year's gala, champagne flutes clinking amid the soft whir of robotic arms demoing wireless Mark VI. Ted Nelson, 89 now, sat in a leather chair by the window, his hands, scarred like ancient I-beams, cradling the original 1941 prototype, its ceramic cap still flawless after 53 years. Silver hair, framed eyes that burned undimmed, the Army-Navy E-pin beside a congressional medal gleaming on his lapel. Emma, 87 and elegant in pearls, squeezed his arm, her laugh lines deep as weld grooves. Wendy Callahan, 80, white-haired matriarch of Weldy's warriors, hoisted grandson Spark Jr., engineer NASA-bound. Teddy, your gun holds the Space Shuttle. Numbers scrolled walls. $5 billion annual revenue, 80 countries, 1.2 billion studs shipped. But Ted's gaze drifted to Elm Street bungalow photos, garage ghosts. They laughed once, he whispered to Emma. Now, the future's welded. His story had faded to legend, but the impact? Immortal. As champagne popped, the eternal spark reflected. One man's defiance built belief that outlasted empires. Flashback montage opened the gala, cinematic reels projected on lobby dome. 1941, garage zap, Morrison's laugh. 1942, Rosie zaps on Liberty KE-14. 1945, Golden Gate Bridge studs gleaming. Cut to 1994, Revelation, live demo. Spark Jr. clamped shuttle heat tile, zap with Mark VI 1-pound laser-guided to 0.1 sec. Stud fused holds 10,000 pounds re-entry force. Crowd gasped, Japanese exec Nelson, Moonbase next. Ted rose, cane tapping, from Fresno scrap to stars, simplicity endures. Stats flashed, 80 years later, 98% of world's infrastructure, Nelson studs. Wendy, your spark, Ted, eternal. Emma teared, our legacy. Revelation, patent renewals, no 2,379,129 active till 2094. But Fade whispered, post-gala, empty halls echoed. Young execs buzzed, AI welders obsolete Ted's guns? Wall Street rumors, 6-ball merger, Chinese firm scraps Mark series. Tension, Ted's health doctor's note, weeks left. Wendy visited sickbed, story fading Ted, kids learn Ford, not you. Elm Street bungalow, demolition for mall. Emma, our garage, gone. Heart tugged, mocked again, radio clip, WW2 heroes forgotten tech rules. Ted gripped prototype, no, spark proves. Final fight, legacy or dust, January 15th. Merger crisis peaked, boardroom. Slick CEO Vance, Ted's relics sell patents, $10 profit. Shareholders nodded, Rosie's picketed outside. Save the spark. Stock dipped 15%. Doctor, stress fatal. Bedside, Ted watched news. Nelson Empire sold, end of era. Emma wept, they laughed last. Wendy rallied 50x Rosie's twerps on scrap for mad welder. But papers obsolete, AI welds faster. Heart attack loomed, monitors beep beep. All for nothing? Flashback, Morrison's sneer, not again. Fresno boy, tractor fix, 1941 tears with Emma. Pearl Harbor hug, E-award cheers. Wendy's baby zap, 1945 piece pivot, cut to now, hospital room, family circle. Tommy retired Admiral 54, Dad, your decks held me at late. Sarah, Professor, textbooks teach you now. Spark Jr., shuttle flies on studs. Wendy, warriors forever. Emma, you built belief, love. Ted teared, prototype in hand, not guns, us. Monitors steadied, resolve surged. One last zap, January 3 a.m. breakthrough, viral legacy. Spark Jr. uploaded garage footage to net, early internet, Mad Welder vs. Navy, true story. By dawn, 1 million views. CNN, Nelson boycott, save the spark. Revelation, Rosie's network, 50,000 women emailed CEOs, no merger or no studs. Pentagon, subs still need Nelson. NASA, Mars rover, your welds. Stock reversed, 25%. Board caved, $0 merger, Mark eternal. Bungalow saved, museum. Ted watched TV grinning, world remembers. Numbers, 10 million views. Legacy welded, January 25th, 31st, world bloomed. Vallejo, Nelson Day, parade, 10,000 zaps fireworks. Schools, curriculum, Ted innovation hero. Golden Gate plaque studs by Nelson 1945. NYC Empire State 1 million Ted Welds. Tokyo skyscraper P Spark Tower. Sydney Harbor Bridge Weldy's Way. Autos Ford F-150 Nelson Frame Standard. Space Shuttle Endeavour studs to stars. Letters flooded Grandpa's Chevy your 1946 Zap. My Bridge saved Quake lives. Stats 1994 2 billion studs active. 500 million MH piece. Wendy Choir granddaughters. Zap that future Ted's way. Papers Mad Welder Immortal February 1st. Final test health crisis. Ambulance wailed Emma Road prototype clutched. Hospital days left. Family vigil Rosie's sang outside doubt go quiet. But cable President Clinton Ted Nelson National Treasure medal tomorrow. Spark Jr. net hits 50 million. Rosie number 88 96 Zap through Warrior. Monitors raced will held one more dawn. February 5th. Bedside reflections Ted to Emma. Garage night your faith. Flashback cascade laughter tears zaps hugs. Best weld us. Wendy Spark Jr. names son Theodore. Tommy Fleet Admiral your decks. Sarah book Defiance welded. Collective tears love's eternal spark. Emma quiet content Ted proven. Heart swelled not metal soul. February 7th. Medal ceremony White House live net. Clinton pinned Theodore Nelson Congressional Gold Innovations Soul. Citation from mocked sketch to world standard saved 750 million lives or peace. Belief forged. Ted wheeled on stage. They laughed at simplicity till it saved the world. Roars zaps from Rosie's relayed. Net 100 million. CEOs knelt 10B endowment. Nelson forever. Bungalow National Landmark February 14th. Quiet end. Home bedside prototype humming. Battery test. Family encircled. Emma see future. Ted smiled welded. Last breath slow content. Monitors flatlined Zap echoed test fire. Room erupted not grief cheers. Wendy Matt Welder wins. Sparks slow-mo outside fireworks. Legacy sealed. Man gone spark eternal. Dawn February 15th 1994. Vallejo glowed factory Zap salute arcs painting sky. Emma on porch prototype lit rest love. Montage finale modern welder on Mars base Zap Tokyo Tower Zap your car's frame Zap school kid Ted Nelson hero. Text overlay they laughed at his crude gun but it welded together the future. Voiceover swell they mocked his crude idea because they didn't understand its power. Ted Nelson proved innovation isn't born from permission. It's born from frustration, faith, and fire. Every spark in every factory was his rebellion against disbelief. If you love stories of unsung innovation that changed the course of history, subscribe for more untold WW2 transformations.